TC number 361, 5 seconds. Start. Sir, I move this bill with a feeling of hope and expectation, for I am confident that for the successful development of agriculture, ancillary and supplementary conditions envisaged in this bill are indispensable. Just as in the case of industry, finance and marketing are two essential conditions, so also in the case of agriculture, finance and proper marketing are equal essential conditions. You can put up the latest factory and provide the best personnel, but if there is no arrangement for finance and for marketing, that factory will not work. Sometimes I am amazed how the agriculturist, sandwiched as he has been between the usurious and fleecing moneylender and the greedy and profit minded trader, has been able to survive about and live. A lot of thinking has been given to the question of providing finance for agriculture. Some thought has also been given to the problem of marketing of agricultural produce, but I do not know of any report or of any literature in the long history of the cooperative movement which has dealt with this problem in a comprehensive and integrated manner as the Rural Credit Survey has done. One of the main defects from which the cooperative movement in India has suffered is that it has mainly concentrated itself on the credit side of the problem. It has been confined to the better case of farmers. The medium and the small farmer has been left out of the ambit of the cooperative movement. The government too has not taken the interest that was necessary for the development of this movement. The result has been that the cooperative movement today contributes an infinitesimally small part only of the short term, medium term, and long term credit needed by the agriculturist. I am thankful to the Rural Credit Survey, which has surveyed the problem in a very comprehensive manner and given, as I said, an integrated scheme. The scheme envisaged by the Rural Credit Survey falls into two parts: the financial, or rather the credit side of the cooperation, and the economic side of cooperation. So far as the credit side is concerned, the formulation of the scheme and its implementation has been entrusted to the Reserve Bank of India. The Reserve Bank Act laid the responsibility of developing rural credit upon that institution, and it was inappropriate that the responsibility should be placed upon the Reserve Bank. Before I come to the particular subject with which this bill deals, I would like to give a background of what the Reserve Bank processes to do, because it is only in that background that a very proper appreciation of the provisions of this bill can be done. At the base, it is proposed, or rather it has been decided, to set up what are known as large-sized cooperative societies. These large-sized cooperative societies will cover from 5 to 10 villages according to the conditions of the different regions. For these 5 or 10 villages, as I said, a large-sized cooperative society will be set up which will deal with multifarious activities concerning the farmer. Ordinarily, the share capital of a large-sized cooperative society will be rupees 20,000. The government will contribute 50% of this capital, but if the farmers of the region failed to contribute the remaining 50%, the government will make up the shortfall. The idea is not that the government should remain permanently a partner in the share capital, but as soon as the farmers are in a position to provide adequate finance, the capital invested by the government will be retired, because I am fully conscious of the fact that the cooperative movement, in order to be successful in the true sense, must be owned and run by the farmer himself. This society will also provide commodities which the farmer needs for his productive and consumption purposes, such as seeds, fertilizers, agricultural implements, kerosene, cloth, etc. It will maintain a storehouse. Hitherto, the cooperative societies used to advance capital to the farmer either on the security of land or on production of one or more sureties. The result was that only substantial farmers, or those who had credit in the financial world, could avail of that credit. The medium farmer and the small farmer, who in many cases had only a precarious right in land, could not benefit out of it. Sir, it is a well known fact that the medium and small farmers constitute about 75% of the total farmers in India, and any scheme which is not calculated to benefit the 75% of the mass of farmers, I submit, is a highly defective and incomplete scheme. It is proposed that in future credit will be advanced not on the security of land or on the production of sureties, but on the security of the prospective crop, so that even the smallest agriculturist owing an acre or half an acre can get some money to finance his productive operations.